Halo. It's had its ups and downs over the years, from being the main reason you bought an Xbox, to selling the first $60, 8-hour playable trailer for their next game. You probably have a good idea of when things started going downhill for this franchise. This hill isn't a consistent gradient, however, because games seem to do better when 343 outsources development to another firm. And luckily for us, Halo Wars 2 was outsourced to Creative Assembly, which is known for their Total War series. All of this strategy prowess on the resume doesn't go to waste in Halo Wars 2, but I think it more goes to show how well Ensemble Studios did developing the first Halo Wars, as the core gameplay remains intact, and it will not take veteran players long to adjust. The biggest change is the addition of a second currency, power, which makes more sense realistically, as we just built all those reactors in the first game to get more innovative. Maybe it was the radiation, I don't know. This power currency is used for building special units, but its biggest implication is for upgrades, which can make it more cost-effective to research. I did feel that after 20 or so minutes into a game, that I generated enough power and supplies to make them meaningless, so I'm not sure if this is a method for extending gameplay. A nice addition was a way to assemble groups of units into quick selectable armies. Not everything is better though. There was an executive decision to create a dedicated global rally point button and map it to the D-pad. And the leader power wheel, which should be on the D-pad, is now on the left trigger, which may not sound like much, but it means if you are cycling through your selected units with the right trigger, and you want to go back one, then you have to go all the way around again. So if time is of the essence, be prepared to lose a few units. Campaign takes the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. / Halo 3 ODST approach to storytelling by having the main character's story take place far away from the central plot in the shared universe, or at least they show up really late to it. The crew of the Spirit of Fire awaken about 28 years after the first game, which of course means they missed all the cool stuff from Halos 1 through 3, and all the boring stuff from 4 and 5. The writers have opted out of showing any conflict among the crew, as they all seem content with being in cryo for almost 3 decades, and are overjoyed to fight an enemy the UNSC isn't technically at war with, and eradicate them from a place that doesn't have any significance to the Spirit of Fire. Almost like a galactic pest exterminator company that gets paid in supply crates and power nodes. But perhaps story foundation doesn't really matter. We just need a reason for humans to fight some aliens, right? Well, obviously. Have you ever played a video game before? Well, this game starts off strong with a nice CGI cutscene that the first game was famous for. But it turns out there are only about 3 or 4 of those CGI cutscenes for the rest of the game. Half of them are disappointing. There was one that was supposed to show us a space battle that had been taking place above the Ark during the last 2 campaign missions, and the entire cutscene is inside the bridge of the Spirit of Fire. And they start by saying how they will all die soon, and then they slow down the tempo, discuss solutions nonchalantly, and then the new AI Isabel decides to do something that she thinks would be more dramatic and effective if she keeps it a secret from the entire crew. But how is the rest of the story told, you might ask? Well, most of it comes in the form of narrated loading screens, which is better than just a static picture, but the first game had a cutscene before every mission, so I know they can do better. And then there's the ending. I won't spoil it too much, but to call it a cliffhanger would be a misclassification. It's more of a, oh, I forgot the deadline was tonight, and the script's only 75% finished. I was feeling confident in the game's story DLC before, but if its only purpose is to finish the main story, I'm sure the backlash will be enormous. If you're anything like me, and let's face it, that's your main aspiration, then multiplayer is where you'll be spending most of your time, especially if you revisit the game over the next 5 years. Many things can happen over that amount of time. That's why I relish every win I get in launch week, because in a couple of months, I'll be losing in the first 5 minutes of a match for sure. The matchmaking system is a little confusing because the game modes are separated into different playlists. This makes sense on paper, but they've decided to give the playlists different names than the game modes it represents. So if you want to play Strongholds, you select the Rumble playlist, even though Strongholds is the only game mode in that playlist. Same goes if you want to play Domination. You select Team Objective, even though it's the only game mode in that playlist. I can see having different names for your modes to differentiate them from other games, but they've pretty much set up a complex cipher, and all the money they used to make that got taken out of the map design budget, because it's rather lacking in creativity, especially since the Ark is supposed to contain deserts, forests, and tundras. Halo Wars 1 had cities and jungles, not to mention unique map features that made each one stand out. Perhaps over time the maps will grow more distinct in my mind, but it's definitely a hindrance. The UI's flaws appear more in multiplayer, such as the removal of your ally's cursor on the minimap, which among other things, makes it difficult to know when your ally has been eliminated from the match. I think I've seen the message pop up once or twice, but usually 5 or 10 minutes go by before I realize I'm the last one left. I think this could be attributed to information overload, as there's a lot of audio chatter. I don't really need to know that my infantry unit is popping, or whenever my teammate is being attacked by a jackrabbit to hear our ally is in trouble. I think it's kind of like the boy that cried wolf. Eventually, I'm gonna block everything out. Oh, and remember Strongholds? Well, that game mode is only fun if your opponent plays the objective. But if they're educated, they'll build jump pack brutes or flamethrowers to destroy your base within the first 3 minutes of the game. I'm not bitter, as I have had great success with this myself, but I can see this game mode going down on the popularity list pretty soon, and I think that's not good from a design standpoint. Also, there's a weird audio glitch that I only hear in Strongholds, where your AirPad/Apex makes a repeating clunking noise whenever it's building something. I usually end up moving the camera somewhere else to save my sensitive ears. The developers were willing to take a gamble on Blitz, and I think it paid off. The biggest downside to RTS is the time commitment. In Blitz, the longest a match can last is 12 minutes. The rules they've set up may feel restrictive at first, but they actually allow for a broader range of encounters than one might expect. And if you're not particularly good with strategy games against real people, it gives you a nice bite-sized piece of the action and a chance to dominate part of the field with Uber units. There are pros and cons for having the same map for each match, but I'm hopeful they'll add more with DLC. One has to wonder if the main driving force behind Blitz's addition was more related to providing microtransactions in the form of Blitz packs. But whenever you level up, finish a campaign mission, or complete a challenge, you get a pack to add different unit cards to your deck. Getting duplicate cards level up the unit or ability, but I must confess that I have yet to be able to figure out the difference between a level 1 grunt squad and a level 2 grunt squad without resorting to some online wiki. There is also a strange warm-up period at the beginning of each match that is the camera revolving around your starting units for 15 seconds. You can't move, and you can't look to see which side of the map you're on. So I really don't see a reason for this to be in every match. It might have been okay if they showed the units being dropped off on a Pelican or Spirit, but even that would have gotten old after the 10th game. So, who is this game for? Halo Wars 2 is for strategy fans on consoles, Halo fans, and people that really enjoyed the original, but the latter holds true the most. If you can imagine yourself playing multiplayer after 6 months, then you probably can look past its other shortcomings. Halo Wars 2 is also a sign that Halo as a whole is still moving downhill. The peak breaks upward, but not nearly high enough to move the franchise to the heights it once stood.